We're back here on One Bills Live. Maddy Glab alongside of Chris Trapasso. We've got a topic for you today. What was the best off-season move by the Bills? You can tweet at us or give us a call at 803-0550. But before we go to the tweet sheet and the phone lines, I wanted to get your opinion first. What would you say is the best move?
All right, I won't spend too much time repeating myself, but I think just in terms of one transaction, it was the Curtis Samuel signing. To get him at $8 million per season, we mentioned it in the first segment. We've seen just the beginning of the explosion of the wide receiver position financially. We're going to get 3 or 4 more giant deals. And I use the Devontae Smith comparison because when I was in last week and I did a little comparison or a projection of based on what John Brown, Cole Beasley, and Stefon Diggs, the boost that they got coming to Buffalo with Josh Allen. Curtis Samuel should be right around 80 catches, 1,000 yards. That was Devontae Smith's stat line last season. He's making $25 million per year. Curtis Samuel, $8 million.
Wow.
But to go galaxy brain, to kind of go next level for you, it wasn't really a move by the Bills. It was a decision from one of their players. Von Miller to just walk up to Brandon Beane and say, I will reduce my salary from $17.1 million to about $8 million this year was huge for the Bills to sign Nicholas Morrow and MVS and Mike Edwards and re-sign AJ Epinesa and Daquan Jones. Maybe Deion Jones at linebacker is a good insurance option early on. Chase Claypool, we talked about him. That was something that none of us expected. I don't know if you did. I certainly thought Von Miller's going to be like, hey, you traded for me or you signed me. You gave me this gigantic deal over $100 million. You got to pay it out. But Von Miller said, I'm willing, after last season was such a disappointment, to bet on myself. So to me, in terms of Brandon Beane being able to restock the shelves with bargain bin free agents, that decision from Von Miller, I think, was a very veteran leadership type move to say, look, I've made an insane amount of money in the NFL. I'll reduce my cap hit, maybe earn them back in incentives to give me motivation, and also allow Brandon Beane to make some more moves in free agency.
I really hope he comes out in week 1, early on in the season, Von Miller, and just is the player that we all wanted him to be in this Buffalo Bills uniform, because last year was disappointing for himself, but for all of us too who wanted to see, okay, what can this guy do? What can he give us when we know what he's done in big-time games? So hopefully we get that version of Von Miller this season with a healthy Daquan Jones next to him. I mean, if you think about this defensive line being healthy with players like Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa in there and Ed Oliver, of course, with some of the new players that we got through free agency and drafted in Dwayne Carter, Javon Solomon, Austin Johnson, Dwayne Smoot. Like, some of these guys could be great rotational players for this team. And if you look at the starting 4 that we're projecting could be the starting 4, this could be a pretty great defensive line if they stay healthy, I believe. And
Sean McDermott is going to rotate as much as any defensive coordinator, head coach in the NFL. So I think you reading off all those names, you're like, man, they have so many defensive linemen. Well, they need that. And I think that's been integral to defensive players wanting to sign here and being okay with one-year deals because they know that their coach is not going to max them out and wear their bodies down for future years and for late into a season. So to get some more pieces up front, to go 7, 8 deep, I think really has helped and is a great philosophy for Sean McDermott. So it's kind of like the opposite, or the similar track as the wide receiver position, where there's so many bodies, not all of them are going to hit.
Right.
But if 1 or 2 of the defensive linemen hit, suddenly you're already 6 or 7 deep. You have some defensive linemen on rookie deals as well. Then Sean McDermott will really have what he wants. Bobby Babich, too. We don't know what he's going to ultimately do with the defense, but we know they want to rotate up front. And we've seen Von Miller. 2022, he was like tracking toward maybe being a defensive player of the year. Fluke injury against the Lions on Thanksgiving. Doesn't look like he really does anything to his knee, tears his ACL. And what's interesting to me, it kind of got lost in that game in the divisional round loss to the Chiefs. Von Miller was good in that game. There was the last, I think, 2 Chiefs possessions, the Bills were able to hold them before they kind of ran out the clock to get the Bills back into that game
some
late.
Good pass rush snaps.
And wins where he was close to Patrick Mahomes and was going to maybe be that closer, maybe getting a sack or a forced fumble. Certainly pressured Patrick Mahomes. So it kind of came alive a little in the final game of the season. Maybe he just wasn't at his age fully back from the injury until, mid-January. Now he has an entire offseason, no surgery, no injury setbacks. If Von Miller now at a lesser cap number can be even 80 or 90% of what he was in 2022, along with all the additions up front that will rotate through that you're mentioning, Maddy, I think we're going to be looking at another, top flight Bills defensive line in 2024.
Yeah, in 2022, Von Miller did have a great season up until, the second half of it when we didn't see as much of him. But he finished the season with 8 sacks playing in just 11 games. That's almost a sack a game. And I think if we get something like that out of him this season, it would really take that group to the next level. I will quickly say what I think was the biggest offseason move by the Bills. I'm going with the coaching staff. Joe Brady hiring him as offensive coordinator and hiring Bobby Babich as defensive coordinator. The way that we've heard the players inside the building talk about these two, rave about these two, the defensive players say Bobby Babich is the smartest guy I know. He just has a brain, a knack for football like no one else does. I really am excited to see what it looks like when week 1 comes around. I know we don't know yet if he's going to be the one calling plays. Sean McDermott has said, hey, ask me that question once we get into training camp. Right now we're just trying to get a handle on things and teach guys this playbook. But I think having him in that position is going to do a lot for this defense. And then you have Sean McDermott as the head coach, who's just a defensive-minded coach. We saw what he did last season in that DC position, and just having him over Bobby Babich as someone who can help guide and lead him, as Bobby is in his first year as a defensive coordinator, I think is great for Bobby and is great for Sean. I think those two will pair up really nicely together, and I can't wait to see what this defense looks like under Bobby. And for the offense too, I mean, all these players have been saying Joe Brady wants to create an offense that's for us. We're all going to eat. This is Josh Allen's offense, things that we've heard Joe Brady say. And I just feel like the relationship aspect between the players and Joe is so great. They're younger guys, so I feel like they jive with them a little bit better. They can relate a little bit better, and that's going to pay off once the games start, because this time right now is about creating these relationships with these players. And if you can hit a home run in May and June by doing that, we've heard Josh Allen say, I cannot state how important it is to build those relationships right now, because it really does pay off once the season starts. If Joe and Bobby can do that right now with these guys, I think we're going to see something special in September.
Yeah, very quickly, how about this? There's obviously national talk about what's this Bills offense going to look like without Stefon Diggs, right? To me, we've already seen it. I mean, last year down the stretch, there was that line of demarcation going from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady. From the game against the Jets at home, Joe Brady's first game as the Bills offensive coordinator, through the regular season finale, Stefon Diggs only averaged 5 catches and 45 yards per game. And then he has 3 catches for 21 yards in the divisional round, 7 catches for 52 yards in the wild card round against the Steelers. So he was right at that average, just about 4 or 5 catches a game for about 40 or 50 yards. He was not the elite player that Ken Dorsey and Brian Daboll could lean on earlier in the Josh Allen era. And I think what Joe Brady did without Stefon Diggs was kind of maybe, I don't want to say push Stefon Diggs out the door, but made Brandon Beane a little bit more okay with, hey, I've seen him spread the football around. You mentioned everybody's eating. So to me, that is the most encouraging part, is that he's not like, oh, I kind of have my hands tied behind my back now because I don't have an elite receiver. He was on the field last year, but he was not the big producer down the stretch in the Joe Brady offense last year.